It is Wednesday, August the 27th, ladies and gentlemen, 2008. My name is Irv Homer. IRV, capital Homer. I know it's difficult because they're both first names, but that has been my name from the time of my birth. And when I got into radio, I figured I may as well keep my name the same, since I had no idea that I was going to be as successful as I have been. We're broadcasting from irvhomer.com. We welcome you to join us during the program. The program is 1 hour long. If things continue after Labor Day and after the Republican convention, we may decide to extend the program. We may change the hours, but this is the initial kickoff of this format of the Irv Homer Show. And my website is www.irvhomer.com. You can check the website out, see what's on there. The information of my broadcasting background, awards, people that I've interviewed, pictures of those folks that I've interviewed over the years. And of course, if you want to email me, you can email me at evilirv@irvhomer.com. That's evilirv@irvhomer.com. Now, once again, this is not a confrontational type of television program, radio program, whether you're listening to it or hearing it. It's a program of information and questions. If you have information that you can release, not opinion, but real information, although we welcome your opinion, but please distinguish between whether it's your opinion or whether it's fact, and if it's fact, where did the source come from? If it is totally absurd, I may comment, but it will not be confrontational. I do not intend to get into a whole big battle between you and myself and other callers. You can respond to what other callers say. However, it's not that type of format. It's a little different than the programming that I've done on commercial television and commercial radio. Let me remind you that RGH Computer Services for all your computer problems, all your computer needs, is available to you by calling 215-322-8685. If you have a problem with your laptop computer, you're not making connections, it's too slow, it's too fast, whatever problem you have when it comes to your computer, simply call RGH Computer Services at 215-322-8685. If they can talk you through the problem, they will. If it's necessary for them to come to your home, your place of business, to set up and find out what's wrong, they'll be more than glad to do that. Of course, their rates are extremely reasonable because their operating cost is minimal. Once again, that's RGH Computer Services for all your computer problems. All your computer. If you're going to buy a computer, and what type should you buy? What type should you buy your children that are going to school? What should you pay for it? What does it need? As you advance, the child advances through school, you have to upgrade your computer. RGH Computer Services is thoroughly familiar with computers from the beginner to the programming that is already established in your home or your place of business. Of course, the Democrat convention is looking forward to hearing President Bill Clinton speak tomorrow night, which will be Thursday night. And we did hear from Hillary on Tuesday night. We heard from Michelle Obama on Monday night. And of course, the pundits have picked it apart, torn it apart, analyzed it, debated, questioned. It is absolutely amazing that how everyone who is not involved directly in the political process of putting a campaign together or a convention together, how much they know, and the people that do it don't know. And I'm sure that if you're a political nut like I am and watch the news and listen to the rhetoric, that you've been totally bored with this guy Dick Morris. If I see Dick Morris one more time, as an expert, what do you know about Dick Morris? Who is this guy that appears on Hannity and Combs and appears on Michael Medved and appears on what's his name in the afternoon? They're all over the place. This is Dick Morris. Well, Dick Morris is a prostitute toe sucker. That's right. Dick Morris is a prostitute toe sucker. When he worked for Bill Clinton and the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton had called him about, I believe it was the raid on Libya. And it came that Dick Morris was with a prostitute sucking her toe. But apparently, the Republicans who set the moral compass for our society don't care too much about this perverted Dick Morris, who is a sexual pervert who loves to suck prostitutes' toes. And he's all over the dials, and with great respect in this man, yet they will criticize Bill Clinton, who, in my opinion, if he did perform sex with Monica Lewinsky, did it without any perversion. I mean, that's the way sex works. But Dick Morris, a man who sucks a prostitute's toe while he's speaking to the President of the United States, is now getting recognition and acclaim, and is promoting his new book called Fleeced. Well, why don't you write a book about your sexual perversion, Dick? And it's an applicable name for you, pal. I got news for you. Most people would call you Richard, but, I think Dick is symbolic of the nature of your sexual perversion. Well, why don't we look into who this guy is and who these other experts that suddenly appear on the screen getting such acclaim from the people that they interview. It is absolutely mind-boggling. While I'm picking on people in the media that I find a total disgrace to the business that I love and used to be associated with commercially, listening to Michael Medved, my self-hating Jew, was speaking about Dennis Kucinich's speech last night, which was shown partially on cable. You got to switch around the dial to see Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich, incidentally, makes more sense than Dick Morris. At least his wife is gorgeous, and she's a little taller than Dennis Kucinich. But Kucinich is a great orator for a little guy, a little man. He was the youngest mayor of the town that, I think he was elected to mayor 32. And he's a politically astute guy whose concern is about America and the hypocrisy involved in the political system. He's a Democrat. And so in the speech he was saying upward and onward and hope and on, and he was really dramatic, a little passion, which the Democrat convention sorely needed, with the exception of Hillary last night, who did a rather great job on making her point of supporting Barack Obama. And he made reference to the speech that Dennis Kucinich made by saying that symbolic of another little guy that used to talk like that. However, cowardly Medved, the coward of talk radio, didn't have the nerve to say Adolf Hitler. Did not have the courage to say Adolf Hitler. What's the matter with you, Michael? Are you so damn politically correct that you were afraid that if you equate Dennis Kucinich's speech with Adolf Hitler, the headlines would be, Medved accuses Kucinich of being the newborn Adolf Hitler? You are the biggest damn coward, fake phony fraud, next to Rush OxyContin Limbaugh. I'm no drug user and abuser, I just have a bad back. And yet we in America buy these clowns like Dick Morris, Michael Medved, Rush Limbaugh, and Glenn Beck, who promoted this big thing called Patriotic America with the demonstrations all over support our troops. But you haven't seen any demonstrations lately, have you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, see, I remember these things. You may not know it, or you may have forgotten it. Or you may be so blinded by these fake, phony frauds that are on radio and television that it doesn't make any difference to you because it suits your particular midget mentality and you feel comfortable with these fakes. Well, I don't. Because the fakes of the world are the ones that destroy the world. The truth sayers get crucified. I'm not going to refer to the man. It was Jesus Christ. See, he told the truth. And so they hung him up. So maybe Medved and these guys know something. They better not tell the truth because they may hang us up. So that's my opening comment about these fake, phony frauds that are extolling and criticizing the virtues of the Democrat convention. And I want to see whether or not they're going to do the same thing to the Republican Party. I have to say that if the Republican Party were to hold their convention, ladies and gentlemen, and never say a word, the Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot. And as I conclude, there's probably a few reasons why the Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot. Barack Obama may be qualified to be the President of the United States because he's 35 and was naturally born, and that's all the qualifications you need to be the President of the United States. You don't have to speak to a Rick Warren, a religious hustler who makes a lot of money promising you salvation in the hereafter, and how can you challenge it? How do you challenge these fake, phony frauds that wear the clerical garb and sell you hope for the future? So Barack Obama is a new kid on the block. Not much experience in Washington, young man. And this young guy, Barack Obama, is up against a bunch of old mafiosa in Washington. He's up against the Karl Rove. He's up against the McCains. He's up against the right-wing Rutherford Institute. He's up against all of these right-wing old dogs. And there's an old expression, ladies and gentlemen, you can't run with the big dogs when you pee like a puppy. Barack Obama is a puppy trying to run with the big dogs. For example, I'm almost sure that unless the audience is stirred up when he speaks on Thursday night at that football stadium, the per capita excitement that he generates, that Bill Clinton is going to generate tonight at the convention just by merely appearing. You don't even know if Bill Clinton stood on the platform tonight, and I guarantee you right now it is 10 minutes after 6 on Wednesday night. I guarantee you Bill Clinton could stand there for 15 minutes and never say a word and get more votes than Barack Obama is going to get. That's what this little puppy dog, Barack Obama, is up against. Barack Obama has no track record. I'm not criticizing the man himself. Brilliant kid, African American, dark skin, blah, 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 and all that. Fine. Not criticizing. Nothing personal, Barack. But you ain't got the experience, kid. And these old war horses, including Hillary Clinton last night, Bill Clinton tonight, John Warner, and some of the other folks that are up there speaking, are way out of your league, kid. And at the end of the Democrat convention, you're going to see the difference of a little puppy dog trying to run with the big dogs. And that's what's going to kill his election. Up until this convention, depending upon who was going to speak and what they were going to say, I figured he may have a chance. There's only three things that are going to make him win. Number one, the uncontrolled turnout of African Americans, not because he's any good or he's better than McCain, but because he's black. He is the political O.J. Simpson right now. Now, all indications are that O.J. Simpson killed his wife and killed Ron Goldman. But that jury was not going to convict him, and they didn't. And so African American, black America is going to vote for Osama bin Laden, for Barack Obama. I was reading and listening to the publisher of one of the largest Hispanic newspapers in the country and a strong advocate for Hispanic rights in America, perpetuating a dual language for America, English and Spanish. There are 20 million registered voting Hispanics in America. Prior to this election, going back to 4 years ago, none of the political candidates, even George Bush, president, never solicited any interviews or honored any interviews from the Hispanic community. Spanish television, Spanish radio, Spanish newspapers, Spanish magazines. Just never bothered. This election, reluctantly, the Republicans did ask to be interviewed by the Hispanic community. And of course, Barack Obama was already in there. George Bush, president who spoke Spanish and did his inauguration. You remember when he was inaugurated? He accepted the inauguration in Spanish. Tried to convince McCain, in conversation, McCain's campaign managers, to introduce more Hispanic rhetoric in his conversation, knowing there are 20 million Hispanic voters out there who may not vote all the same. There may be Democrats and Republicans within the Hispanic community. But he didn't take his word. So you may see in the Republican convention a push or a little bit of acceptance of Spanish in the Republican convention to get that 20 million dormant Hispanic voters who still haven't made up their mind where they're going to go, depending upon the reception they receive at the Democrat convention and the reception they receive at the Republican convention. The one man that they expected, according to this gentleman, who was pretty powerful in the means of communication in the Spanish community, that Bill Richardson, who is Hispanic, didn't emphasize it during the Democrat convention. But they predicted without this Hispanic vote, the next president of the United States will never make it. So I submit that between now and November at the election, you're going to see a big push to get that Hispanic vote. We take calls on our chat room, and if you want a question answered, please feel free to give us a buzz, respond to something that I'm saying, or introduce a question on your own. Let me remind you that this Friday, Valerie Morrison, world-famous psychic who has been a friend and a guest on my program for over 25 years, will be here with me this Friday. And if you have any questions that you can't get through on the chat room, you can send me an email with a question and I will give it to Valerie. And you can email me at evilerv@irvhomer.com.
There's also a link to email Valerie the questions direct on the main page of your website, irvhomer.com.
Well, you heard him say it, so I don't have to repeat it. But this Friday, all things considered, Valerie Morrison will be with me here, and you can email the questions both ways. Now, I want to move into something about why we deal with one issues. We have the immigration issue. Some people are one issue oriented to vote. We have abortion, gun control, poverty, health care. But the one issue that Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House, really blew this week, not by my definition, but by the National Catholics and by the Catholic Church, was a comment she allegedly made about abortion. And I'm here now to tell you that you may get offended about what I say, that the whole pro-life movement in America is a fraud. That's what I said. The pro-life movement in America is a fraud. Oh, you have demonstrations in Washington and you give thousands of dollars for pro-life legislation and save the babies, and you've seen all the signs. And I was involved in that movement. If you check my website, you'll see a big award I got from the Southeastern chapter of the Right to Life Society for being a strong advocate, not necessarily but opposed to abortion, saying that abortion is murder. But not to a point where I was trying to influence legislation, but merely pointing out that over the period of time, your conscience may get to you, you may resent it, you may feel bad about it. So not to take abortion as a frivolous, quote, medical procedure. of course, in the pro-life movement that I was involved in, one of the journalists of the Bucks County Courier-Times is a nephew of one of the man actually who I was connected with, who was a strong concern about Catholicism and the pro-life movement. And when I got involved in it, almost up to the point of with Cardinal Kroll, the late Cardinal of Philadelphia, and meeting a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bernard Nathanson from New York, who had performed through his auspices over 10,000 abortions in his life, who realized that as he got older and saw the result, and then saw the aftermath of women who felt bad, who were going through psychological problems of the abortion, he started counseling them and getting involved with psychologists and psychiatrists and priests and clergymen and everyone. And so Dr. Nathanson then was the one who wanted to show the pictures of an aborted fetus or the procedure of an abortion on television, if you remember those days. And of course the networks turned it down. They will show the birth of a baby, but they won't show the abortion of a baby. And so, and I introduced to a pro-life member of the House of Representatives a resolution. And I wanted legislation passed along with the Roe v. Wade decision, in opposition to Roe v. Wade. If life begins at conception, and the 23 chromosomes of the male match the 23 chromosomes of the female, and that union of 46 chromosomes, I think I'm accurate on that, create a life, then that is life, human life, right, at the time of conception. Now, do you know of any other crime that can kill another individual and not be prosecuted for? I know of no crime of murder, the cessation of human life, accidental homicide, where there isn't prosecution. And so I wanted not only the pro-life movement in southeastern Pennsylvania, but across the country. Any doctor who performed an abortion and killed the fetus would be charged with murder. Any woman who allowed the procedure to take place will be an accessory to murder and be prosecuted. Never went through. Never went through. Never even entertained the idea. So how can you say something? How can you say something and believe it's murder, but you don't want to prosecute the murderer? Or how can you advocate something and not prosecute the accessory to the murder? My mind don't work that way. But I can raise money on pro-life, I can demonstrate, I can have all kind of awards, I can have all kind of accolades. The church can make all kind of money from it. The church don't even advocate it. Oh, they will say it's murder. But why don't all the Catholic churches or the Orthodox Jews or wherever else in America is opposed to abortion lobby and put pressure on the legislatures both in the state and on the federal level that anyone who commits murder gets prosecuted for murder and accessory to murder. And until the pro-life movement and the Catholic Church answers those questions for me, you're a fraud. You are a big fraud. So the next time you see the pro-life sign, ask one of those folks. Don't confront them. Don't get argumentative. Don't be contentious. Just ask them, would you like to see the doctor that performs an abortion held for murder? And why hasn't there ever been a class action suit by the Roman Catholic Church in America or any pro-life movement of a coalition of all Orthodox religions and submit a lawsuit against malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance in office to prosecutors who will not prosecute for murder? The disillusionment that I got with the pro-life movement did not change my attitude any. 9 people wearing black robes who can't agree on anything, namely Supreme Court justices. You got a 5-4 decision, a 3-6 decision, a 2-1 decision. You have a minority opinion, majority opinion. They can't agree on what the law is. I don't want them telling me when life begins. What the hell do they know? Any more than common sense dictates. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why the pro-life movement is a fraud. That is why the pro-life movement around the world, including the Catholic Church, is a fraud. When I see one cardinal, one priest, one fundamentalist minister, Orthodox rabbi, demand the state legislatures of the state in which they reside, if you believe it's murder, then the murderer should be prosecuted. Not some wackadoozy that shoots a doctor with a scope and gets caught. Not to picket and bother doctors who perform abortion, which is perfectly legal in America, threaten and intimidate them, put their names and their addresses in the hospitals in which they work. Not you cowards. Our Constitution can be changed. Been changed over 150 times. So if we're such a moral country, and we profess to be this Judeo-Christian country that we hear constantly advocated, why isn't abortion a crime of murder in which you can be prosecuted? Because it's a fake movement. Morally, it's your idea, but it's got nothing to do. They got nothing to do with reality. 25 minutes after 6, we'll get to our busy telephones in just a moment. My name is Irv Homer. We're broadcasting from irvhomer.com. And once again, RGH computer services are available for all your computer problems. What kind of computer should you get for your child going through school? You need an update on it. Have a slow computer. What type of computer could you buy? What is the right price to buy? Well, RGH computers are skilled and knowledgeable over the years of dealing with computers since their infancy to help you out. And of course, their rates are very reasonable. You can contact them at 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685. One of the other things I find interesting, if you take a, and believe me when I tell you I am not attacking the Catholic Church. I know many priests, ministers, clergymen. I know a lot of Catholic people. They're good people. They have a right to their opinion as long as they don't tell me that because I don't believe in their Jesus, I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to go to hell on my own. I don't need help with Jesus or you. So you do your thing. Just leave me alone in conversion. But if you take a look at Central and South America, including Cuba, you will see that the predominant religion in Central South America, Cuba, Mexico, etc., is predominantly Roman Catholic. The church, for some reason or other, loves to gravitate toward countries where there's poverty. Take a look at Western Europe and Eastern Europe, you don't find that preponderance of Roman Catholicism. But you do in the humble, poor areas on our globe. And projection is by the year 2050 in America, America will be a Hispanic majority in this country. Not only Hispanic majority, but majority Catholic. outnumbering Muslims, Jews, Protestants, Lutherans, you name it. Now the birth rate, and there are many reasons why the birth rate in Central South America is as high as it is. They claim that one of the reasons that they have so many babies, A, is because it's their religious belief. See, the Catholic Church don't believe in birth control, don't believe in condoms, don't believe in the rhythm system. It all depends if you're listening to rock music or listening to, modern music. I don't know. And I don't mean to be smart, but that's the system. And so a large Hispanic population that's predominantly Roman Catholic, who multiplies more per capita than Jews, Lutherans, Protestants, or anyone else, will eventually, if the statistics and the projections are made by the Census Bureau, and I've said it years ago that this was going to happen, that America was going to be a Spanish-speaking country before I die, and that Hispanics will be the majority population in this country. And it's coming to fruition. So let's assume at the year 2050, we have a majority of Roman Catholic Hispanics. Okay? They don't believe in birth control. You do. Can America sustain, with a poverty level that we are importing and immigrating into this country, can our capitalist system sustain that type of dependence for healthcare, education, housing, and all the other social accoutrements that we need? That is why the church doesn't say anything. The propagation of the faith is one. It says, I don't care if they're Spanish, I don't care what they're, as long as they make babies that will be adherents to the church, we'll continue to grow in opposition to the growth of Islam, which is the largest religion today for conversion and adherence. That is why A, the pro-life movement is a fraud. B, something to look out for that I mentioned many, many times on my program. And C, that Michael Medved is a fraud. The gentleman he was referring to, the little guy that screams with oratorical skill, was Adolf Hitler. Were you too damn yellow to say that, Michael? My name is Irv Homer. You won't see them blazing in the paper. You won't see them blazing on billboards. You won't see my name being carried on banners through Atlantic City on the back of an airplane. But I've got something to say, and I say it on my form here called Broadcasting from IrvHomer.com. We will go to your questions now. Once again, let me remind you that this Friday, for a little levity, a little diversion of heavy programming, Valerie Morrison will be with us. You've seen Valerie on television. You've heard her on the Irv Homer Show. You've heard her with Sid Mark. She was on with Sid Mark. She was on radio with Dominic Quinn. And she will be here with me in the studio this Friday. So email your questions to evilirv@irvhomer.com or link over to her website. Send her the email, and we'll answer those questions if we don't have time to go to the chat room. We will now take calls and questions from the chat room and go to Bill from Northeast Philly. Irv, could you please explain the Council of Foreign Relations to a new listener? Well, the Council of Foreign Relations, Bill, was formed, I believe, around right after World War I. This Council on Foreign Relations was to be a movement after the League of Nations failed. And what they said basically was all the rich people of the world ought to get together to make sure that the peasants in those countries shouldn't attack us and overthrow us. That was basically the reason of the Council on Foreign Relations. So you could be an enemy, but the Council is, hey, I may be your enemy, but we got people here who are going to overthrow the government. We got people to overthrow, but we must maintain our wealth. And the Council on Foreign Relations is made up of very wealthy people. Where the rub comes in is that they have incorporated the news media. The Corporate Communications Network is part of the Council on Foreign Relations. So you will hear somebody talk about the evils of the Council on Foreign Relations on the media who's a member. Walter Cronkite, one of the leading members of the Council on Foreign Relations, talked about American sovereignty and American independence. Well, what was he doing in an organization that was to cause globalization of America? So the Council on Foreign Relations has no borders, it has no boundaries, it has no loyalty to any country other than containing the wealth of the natural resources of the world into this council. Now, there are two Council on Foreign Relations. There's one that's visible, where you can go on the internet and get all the information about the Council on Foreign Relations. They also have the Nomes of Rome, which is the financial end of the Council of Foreign Relations, where nobody ever sees those notes, those books, those who finances the war, who don't finance the war. You want to do something interesting? Find out. A simple question. You kids that go to college, you history professors, after World War I, Germany was bankrupt, totally, completely bankrupt. The Versailles Treaty saw to it that Germany would never be an industrial country again. Because you industrialize Germany, you're going to fight them again. So they made Germany, by Versailles Treaty, an agrarian country. Remember the breadbasket of Europe? Well, Germany, the Caucasus, and the Balkans were supposed to be the breadbasket of Europe, and it did. It fed all of Europe. That wasn't good enough for Germany. Germany wanted the revenge from World War I. As the Third Reich, and don't forget, Hitler got elected to power. There was no revolution. He was elected. The war machine that Germany built up for World War II cost about $500 billion in them days, which today would probably be about 2 or 3 trillion by American dollars today. Who financed Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich? If you take a look at the banks, if you take a look at the lending institute, if you take a look at the industries, all over the world you will see members in the Council on Foreign Relations. In my opinion, it's a subversive organization. I don't think it has the power that it has that did at one time. But it is still there, it is still active, and I don't trust them. Let's go to Vince from Langhorne. Vince from Langhorne says, since Commissioner Charlie Martin hired his daughter and gave her a raise of $2,500, is this pay to play? Well, I don't know whether, A, Charlie Martin hired his daughter. I will take your word for it, Vince. And I don't know if he gave her a raise of $2,500. I will assume that what you're calling in about is true. And is this pay to play? Pay to play is if you get paid but not doing the job. In other words, they're phantom payrolls, where someone is put on the payroll who has nothing to do with the job they do. It may be nepotism when you hire your children. Nepotism is real and alive and well. George Bush, our president, is the son of the former president. So that's nepotism. But you can't say that George Bush is getting paid to play, because he is serving as President of the United States for 8 years. Whether you like it or not, he's getting paid to be the president. Pay for play. If it can be proven, A, if Charlie Martin hired his daughter, and B, if he did give her a raise of $2,500, A, did he hire his daughter because she wasn't qualified? B, did he give her $2,500 or approve $2,500 as a bonus for doing something that she wasn't entitled to? And C, does she really do the job? Now, for those of you who are not familiar, I believe Charlie Martin is a commissioner in Bucks County. I think there are 3 commissioners. I think Jim Cawley is the other commissioner, and I think Diane Marsaglia is the 3rd commissioner. And I think that, I have a special word for Jim Cawley, who is just beyond the man lied to me, let me put it that way. But that's my answer to you, Vince. Bob from New Jersey, why do groups focus so much on abortion once the child is out of your own and support diminishes. Well, the animal kingdom, Bob, and it's a good question, Bob from New Jersey. The animal kingdom, usually once the baby is born, in certain breeds of animals, the parent just abandons them and they're on their own. And this argument has come on for a long time. Why must a human be suckled until it can be independently with its brain, with its digestive system, with its teaching by an adult, before it matures to sustain itself? And that is one of the questions as to whether or not people like Christopher Hitchens, who say that infants are leeches. Well, they are. They have to be kept. And at what point does the child think for itself, feed itself, protect itself, know the difference between right and wrong? A child must be taught. The brain does not develop as fast as the body. And so you will see many guys, kids 6 foot tall who are 13 years old, who are not mature in thinking, but their bodies are matured. So it's an excellent question. It's one that's been debated for many, many, many years. Children are leeches when they come out of the womb. Without the parent nurturing them, they'll die. You've seen theoretical movies of The Wolf Boy, you saw Tarzan raised by the apes, and that's always been a question. Can a child be raised by another animal? You see crossbreeding in animals. You see lions. I saw one the other night. Little tiger cubs who were suckling off a dog, a Labrador Retriever. Can't happen with human beings. Babies cannot suckle from an animal. It's not human milk. It's not the milk that the body wouldn't reject. So it's a good question, which deserves a lot of comments on, Bob, but it is one of those things without a conclusion. Art from Philadelphia. Art says, I agree that life probably begins at conception. When I've asked pro-life legislators if they'll propose legislation to permit a tax exemption for a fetus, a life according to the pro-lifers, they evade a response. It's also a very good question, Art. And it's because legislators are prostitutes. They will not answer a question such as that anymore, answering my question as to why you can't. And why must a woman pay a surcharge if she's pregnant? A doctor then, when a woman declares her pregnancy, becomes two treatments. He treats the unborn fetus and he treats the mother. So they're really two people. But if it's only one person, why would there be a surcharge by medical coverage for pregnancy? But Art, I congratulate you for sticking to these legislators. If more people were like Art, who I happen to know personally, I haven't seen in many, many years, and Art, I agree with the email that you sent me 100%, but of how in the hell, and I will read this email to you one of these days, ladies and gentlemen. Art is a former educator with the city of Philadelphia. How this never enters into discussion of education in America, and until it is, and that is the destruction of a family, the problem is still going to exist, Art, and you know it, and I know it. Getting back to the gentleman of Hispanic origin who I listened to, he said there are three things that the next president must deal with the community, the Hispanic community. One is health care, one is education, and one is the dropout rate of Hispanic students. And I was driving the car at the time, and I almost hit a tree. How the hell can a president of the United States prevent the dropout rate of kids who A, don't have a home life, B, does not get fed properly, C, has no way to study if they live in drug-infested neighborhoods, and one of the parents is in prison? How are you going to prevent that kid from dropping out? What is it going to cost to maintain a lifestyle for that child? So the stupidity of the question that the journalist posed is one of stupidity. How can a president prevent somebody from dropping out of school? Stroke them, give them a bed. The latest statistics from the Census Bureau, ladies and gentlemen, the Office of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, we spend $7 billion with a B dollars a year to feed children breakfast and lunch in our schools. $7 billion. I never got anything in school when I was going to school. Probably a lot of you folks out there never got anything in school. We bought our lunch. It was minimum, of course, but it was wholesome and nutritious, more than that garbage they eat today. But we spend $7 billion a year in feeding breakfast and lunch to school students, and this guy wants to know what the president can do about preventing the dropout rate. Howard says 2 months ago the Bilderbergers met in Chantilly, Virginia. 2 queens and a king came to America, heads of state, and nothing in the newspapers. How do you suppose they control the news media? It's very easy, Howard. They're in the Bilderbergers. They must borrow money from the Bilderbergers. They have executive cross-corporate heads in the Bilderberger group. They have strong lobbyists in all countries. They sustain the Queen of England and her millions of dollars that it costs the poor taxpayers in England for the royal family. So they don't operate independently. There are only, if you do intense research, and I had a fellow, as I mentioned, that worked in the Biddle Law Library for me many years ago. There are only about 7,000 people in the world and their families that actually control the political, military, and financial control of the world. That's all, about 7,000. And as the world population grows more and more, that control gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Think of this. What was the president of the greatest country that the world and the greatest experiment, named the United States, ever, who criticizes a country because it is communist, it is oppressive, it occupies Tibet, going to the Olympics and giving them credibility in the world of humanity? These are the boys, the Bilderbergers, who tell the boys where to go and how to act. Oh, they don't do it directly, but they'll give you an offer that you can't refuse. Once you move up into that financial and power plane in the world, now, I'm not jealous of rich people, but with finances and wealth comes power. It's the power of the wealthy that scares me, not their money. It's the influence of the wealthy that frightens me, not their money. Let them live in luxury. Let John McCain have 15 houses. Let Bill Gates have $20 billion. Let George Soros have $100 billion. It's when that power starts influencing me that I become very suspicious. And all power gravitates toward itself. I've said many, many times, I never heard an American millionaire, an American billionaire, ever complain about communism. I never heard a Rockefeller, a DuPont, a Harrington go through the whole list of people that Ferdinand Lundberg lists in his book called America's Six. Never. Did you ever hear a multimillionaire complain about communism? Did you ever hear a multi-millionaire communist ever complain about capitalism? It's keeping the peasants of the world fighting among themselves so that that exclusive club of about 7,000 people can dictate policy. We have other questions?
Just there's a follow-up on that one.
On what one? The Bilderberger, Howard.
There's
So do you think they run the world, or is there someone above them? No, they are the Bilderberger. Money controls the world. And there's an international currency exchange. The name of the organization escapes me, but it is like a central bank that clears checks. It's like a check clearing outfit. And what they do is they merge with the Bilderbergers and the money controlling part of the world, and then they dictate how much money is A, available, and B, to stabilize the currency so one doesn't crash with the other one. So there is nobody above these people. There is nobody above some secret organization. These organizations, believe it or not, are very arrogant. They'll let you know who they are. You won't know what they do. They'll let you know who they are. And when you question, they'll say, oh, it's just a fraternal organization. The Trilateral Commission was a commission to unite the manufacturing capability of Japan, Germany, and the United States as a manufacturing bulwark against Russia after the Cold War, during the Cold War, which was great. The only trouble is the great idea of the Trilateral Commission was then stolen by North Korea, China, and Russia. So now they're using the whole concept of the Trilateral Commission that we established after World War II, using it today to choke us economically.
That's Frank in the next one.
Frank, the BTU, Frank from Roxborough, the BTU equivalent of all the coal deposits that remain unmined in the United States is greater than all the oil available in the Middle East. Problem is that it will take 10 years before we can develop the process to gasify the coal to meet our pollution standards. You're absolutely right, Frank. Had we paid attention to Jimmy Carter when he was President of the United States in dealing with the energy department that he established, we would have been mining coal by now, and we would have had the gasification process already in place. I go back to the John F. Kennedy days, Frank. When John F. Kennedy said we're going to go to the moon in 10 years, we got there in 10 years, didn't we? If we had a crash Manhattan Project, when we wanted to develop a nuclear bomb, we developed an atomic bomb, didn't we? With an all-out program. Energy is a political and a financial tool. And the boys that have the power do not want to give up that power of oil. Now, the other thing is this. Oil can be drilled with a drill that goes down 2 miles into the earth and pulls the oil out with a pump. You have to take human beings to go into those coal mines and pay them a living wage for the risk they take and for the service they provide to humanity to give us energy independence. When the coal miners of America organized with John L. Lewis and the Union, they were beaten over the head with clubs. The Molly Maguires, made up of all Irish coal miners. Tennessee Ernie Ford wrote a song called Working for the Company's Store. When coal mining first started in this country, the coal mines owners owned the coal mines. They owned the stores in which the coal miners went to buy their goods and groceries. They owned the schools in which their kids went to school. They owned the homes that they lived in and then gave them black lung disease and said, oh, well, let the government keep them. If we are willing to pay for the human life and the destruction of this country in certain areas, we could have had this program within 5 years, not 20 years. Our technology is so great today, Frank. Given the opportunity, we could have enough natural gas and BTUs equivalent in this country But politics, money, and greed, and the lack of wanting to pay coal miners who go down into those mines. I wouldn't do that for $100,000 a year. Would you? Would you want to go down into those coal mines? Half a mile below the face of the earth? Minimum standards established by the Bureau of Mines? Payola to politicians? If we want to solve the problem of gasification, we've got to make our mind that we've got to pay those people to recoup that coal. Now they have what they call strip mining, which can destroy the entire area in which strip mining takes place. But, something just came to my mind. Didn't Governor Rendell say he was going to put the fires out in the mines in Centralia, Pennsylvania? Did it escape me, or did I go through his campaign promises when parts of Pennsylvania are still burning? I think they've been burning for like 100 years. Those fires are still burning, Eddie. Centralia, that area around there, is still parts of Pennsylvania that can't be developed. The homes have been deserted. People have left the area. The answers are there. But power and money, Frank, is preventing us from using that BTU capability of our coal deposits. I still maintain we have oil in America. I can't believe that in 1972, all the oil dried up in America. There's no more well. There's no more oil in Oklahoma, no more oil in Kansas, no more oil in Texas. All the oil wells dried up all of a sudden. Could it be because the Six Sisters, and I had mentioned before that the major stockholders of Atlantic Richfield, from the original family of owners, have filed a federal lawsuit against Atlantic Richfield today for squandering the assets that the grandfather started. It's politics and power and money. This whole energy fraud, offshore drilling, is a fraud. We've got the energy right here in the United States. But there are certain politicians that must be gotten rid of, and certain powerful lobbyists must be gotten rid of. I don't mean anything violent. Educating the American public is what. For example, I mentioned last week, Russian steelmaker to buy Pennsylvania Coal Company. I'll hold it up. Maybe you can read it and maybe you can't. Now, why would a Russian multi-millionaire, billionaire, by the name of Servestostal, buying a Western Pennsylvania coal company for $1.3 billion in cash? If it's worth $1.3 billion in cash to this Russian coal company, they must be doing something with it. They're not going to make furniture from it. They're not going to make toys with it. They're not going to make trinkets with it. They're not going to make clothing with it. If it's worth $1.3 billion to Russians, it must be worth about $20 billion to us. Did any of these mavens on radio or television talk about it? Any of the dumb politicians that are running for office? None. That's, ladies and gentlemen, what boggles my mind. And that's why I feel it's necessary for this program to grow, for you to send in great questions like that. If I can't know the answer, I will get the answer.
I got another one coming in.
But the problem is the lack of real education. You must remember that we are taught by government edict. Our curriculum in our schools, whether it's private school or public school, is the governing mentality of our education system. As every government teaches and sets curriculum, our government sets our curriculum, and you must be accredited or you can't get a job in the system. Is it Bill from Northeast Philadelphia? Is it the Bank of International Exchange or something like that you're thinking of? Yes, it is the BIE. Bill, you're absolutely right. It's the Bank of International Exchange that determines what the Bilderberger Group is alluding to in their 5-year plan. However, the Bilderbergers have revised that to about a 3-year plan, but the Bank of International Exchange is where all the money transfers and the money equations are worked out, and I thank you for that information. Sometimes I get a senior citizen moment, and I can't think of that particular time. I think that about wraps it up for today. We have another question? We'll take as many as we can get. No rush. Anyway, this is the Irv Homer Show, broadcasting from irvhomer.com. Our website is www.irvhomer.com. Email is evilirv@irvhomer.com. And don't forget, this Friday, we're going to have Valerie Morrison on, so email your questions to me at evilirv@irvhomer.com. I'll give them to Valerie, and she can answer them. Once again, if you have a computer problem, if you're interested in getting information about how to purchase a computer, if your computer is too slow, if you're considering getting a computer for your child, or maybe want to upgrade your system, just contact RGH Computer Services for all your computer needs. Their telephone number is 215-322-8685, 215-322-8685. And I want to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for making this program grow. You don't see it in the newspaper advertised. You don't see it in Mike Klein's column. You don't see it in Broadcast Pioneers. You don't see it anywhere. This is a labor of love. I enjoy doing it, and I thank my son, Ron, for putting this together. Until the next time, Friday night with Valerie Morrison, this is Irv Homer saying, as my dear friend Marvin Burek used to say, I ain't got nothing more to say for now.